January the 2nd, 2024. Guys, you're looking at an article I think that's a game changer around the world, actually. It's important to pay attention to the implications of it. It says Saudi Arabia has joined the UAE with BRICS. Petrodollar in for the USA. Russia and China control the straits. This is important. We'll look at some of the details. They control Suez and global oil production now. Turkey is next. Biden managed to send the UAE and Saudi Arabia a package to the BRICS. Now, there's been a lot of problems ever since the October 6th event, I think, in Israel. But I think a lot of the nations that have joined BRICS, guys, just to be honest with you, are kind of tired of the dominance of the petrodollar because it was used for sanctions and things like that. Think about it. It was used to control them. It was designed that way. This control mechanism goes back for thousands and thousands of years, predating our Bible. I'm just saying the type of manipulation, whether not necessarily oil, that's not what I'm saying, but the control that certain nations would have over others, like Egypt had control of a lot of nations. Rome ended up with control. Britain did. The empire never, or the sun never set on the British Empire, used to be the statement a long time ago. And they were pretty harsh in some situations. So I think now that these folks have the ability and the opportunity to escape that control mechanism, they're doing it. Now, was it yesterday or day before yesterday maybe that the U.S. helicopter shot and sank 3 of the Houthi boats that were attacking ships in the Red Sea? Well, Iran vowed to respond, and Russia responded saying they would fully fund the Houthis from now on. And so what happened is this morning was Iran sailed one of their large naval vessels into the Red Sea, right into the face of the U.S. I think Britain has some ships there, maybe one. I know that one of the big U.S. aircraft carriers that were in the Red Sea, they're headed back across the Atlantic coming in now. It wasn't the Eisenhower, it was another one. Anyway, they're headed back. The situation as far as Gaza and Israel it looks like it's winding down. They took out the head of Hamas this morning, maybe it was. Of course, there's promises of retaliation because of that, and I think there will intensify the conflict. It was like the head guy's big general or something like that. Don't know his name. I read the article, but I don't remember that. But let's take a look at this. Guys, and not only did Iran send a warship into the Red Sea, Turkey has blockaded the 2 British warships in the Straits. It's not by chance. And it says Ankara is expected to follow the path of Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the UAE and join the BRICS also. But remember, the NATO was trying to get into the Black Sea and mess with Russia as much as they could. It looks like Turkey is shutting that down. Again, Turkey's current stance with the blockade of 2 British warships in the Straits is not by chance. The Suez Canal, the Straits, and the majority of global oil production is now under BRICS control. What was it, middle of December, guys, that we did a video, talked about Israel wanted to build a canal and bypass the Suez Canal. It sounds like a good plan in a way, but I don't think they're going to have time to complete it before a lot of things happen. It says Biden managed to make reality what War News 247 has written since 2022. That's what we're looking at. To send a package to the BRICS, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Gary Duncan, head of investment at Dalma Capital, emphasized that Saudi Arabia and the UAE will have easier access to the developing markets of the BRIC countries on favorable terms, not under threats and coercion. The addition of 2 major oil producers will strengthen their bargaining power and influence in OPEC. while also giving them the space to align their strategies with other BRIC members. This is Hassan Kuman, head of the ESG Research, Commodities, and Emerging Markets there. Now remember, Iran also threatened to shut down the Mediterranean. People said they couldn't do it, but they've been doing a lot of things folks said they couldn't do. You got the Red Sea blocked, the Straits, you've got them blocked, you've got the Black Sea blocked. The takeaway from the addition of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Egypt to BRICS is the potential for more bilateral trade in local currencies, particularly following the UAE-India agreement reached in July, and Egypt is in similar discussions with India. The world is turning completely away from the controlling U.S. petrodollar. This was Carlos Slim, an economist at the Standard Chartered Bank. Last year, the UAE and India signed agreements to create a framework to promote the use of local currencies in cross-border transactions and strengthen cooperation in interconnecting their payment systems. And I'm sure that Russia's behind a lot of this because they were basically locked out of the world banking system after the conflict started with Ukraine, and that should be winding down before too long, it looks like. It says, meanwhile, calls to reform the international monetary system and develop an alternative currency to the U.S. dollar expected to grow as the BRICS expand, according to Mr. Rayo. Now, how is this going to fit in, guys, to the new world digital currency? If the U.S. dollar is in trouble, and they keep saying that it was a gift from Biden, will that force us into a digital currency just simply because the dollar is no longer effective? And if I'm not mistaken, there was a lot of problems with the bonds today on the stock markets. Guys, and going back, I think this was in August. This was Putin and the King of Saudi Arabia. They had officially joined the BRICS bloc of countries at that point. But the Foreign Ministry of Saudi Arabia had said in August the kingdom would study the details before the proposed. Guys, and going back into August, this image of Putin and the King of Saudi Arabia was when this agreement was signed, but it did not go into effect until yesterday. And let's read what they said then. It said the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia had officially joined the BRICS bloc of countries. Saudi Arabia's foreign minister said in August the kingdom would study the details before the proposed January 1st, yesterday, joining date and take the appropriate decision. And now they've let it go into effect. The BRICS group, which until now included Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, will double its membership with the addition of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Iran, and of Ethiopia as new members. Yeah, that pretty much ends the petrodollar. Saudi Arabia's inclusion comes amid geopolitical tensions between the U.S. and China's expanding influence with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, despite continuing strong ties with the U.S., is increasingly going its own way as it worries that Washington is less committed to Gulf security than in the past. I don't know if it's commitment or capability that's lacking. China, Saudi Arabia's biggest oil customer, is leading efforts to expand the BRICS grouping to become a counterweight to the West. I think that weight and that pendulum has swung because look at these nations again: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, Iran, and Ethiopia. That pretty much puts a nail in the coffin. So now we're going to see some type of scramble to deflect from the reality of what's about to happen. Will that cause inflation to skyrocket? And will it, like I said before, rush the digital currency situation into effect? Also on War News 247 is this article. Plus, guys, there's several on the link that I'm going to provide in the description and in the comments, there's a lot of information about what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, and Russia's had it, and they are taking it out on Kiev and Kharkiv. I'm talking about big attacks. And you can read all about it if you'd like to do that here. But this is what's happening, ties into the Middle East and BRICS. It says Turkey set fire to NATO's war plan, closed the straits to 2 British warships, blocked their entry into the Black Sea. The astute neutral strikes again. Turkey has closed the straits, prohibiting the entry into the Black Sea of 2 minesweepers donated by Britain to the Ukrainian Navy. Ankara made use of its rights as it derives from the Treaty of Montreux. In more detail, the Turkish authorities announced today, again January the 2nd, that they will not allow 2 British minesweepers to sail through the Turkish territorial waters as they head to the Black Sea to be used by Ukraine, because this would constitute a violation of an international treaty crossing the straits in time of war. Britain announced last month that it would transfer 2 Royal Navy minesweepers to the Ukrainian Navy to help bolster Ukraine's maritime operation in its war with Russia. These are the Sandown-class minesweepers, the Grimsby and the Shoreham, which had been renamed Chernihiv and Cherkasy from the Ukrainian regions of the same name. NATO members Turkey had informed its allies that it will not allow these ships to cross the Bosphorus or the Dardanelles Straits while the war in Ukraine continues. The presidency's communication department has announced it, said when the war in Ukraine began in 2022, Turkey activated the 1936 Treaty of Montreux, effectively blocking the passage of warships from the warring parties. The treaty includes ships returning to their home base. That's that bite of the neutrality they were talking about. And the Turkish presidency claimed that Turkey implements the Montreux Treaty impartially and scrupulously to prevent an escalation in the Black Sea. They're saying the Turkish blockade is of great importance, as Ankara now knows that 2 minesweepers were the first ships that NATO were to send to the Mediterranean Sea to test reactions, even in the form of a donation to the Ukrainian Navy. The creation of a naval coalition recently announced by Britain, we talked about this, they wanted to block Russia, one of the main things, I think, from getting into Kaliningrad there and tying it in. But anyway, it says the creation of a naval coalition recently announced by Britain aims to prepare the ground for the deployment of a naval fleet in the Black Sea. His mission will coincide with a simultaneous increase in NATO's naval presence in the Baltic. It's getting shut down. NATO has weakened itself, I think, with a lot of its policies. And you can see some of this information, guys, on Twitter. And you can see there's Erdogan and some of their naval vessels there. Turkey is doing its best to weaken Ukrainian armed forces. To appease Russia, Turkey has prevented the Sandown-class mine hunters, now renamed Ukrainian names, donated by UK to Ukraine. Now, you're looking at the Black Sea. That's very important as we look at the world situation. You've got the Houthis shutting down exports in the Red Sea with their missile attacks, and Russia's now agreed again to supply them with anything they need, money, anything, I think. They're going to support them. It's in their interest because of all, and really what they did was the West really peed off Putin with all those sanctions. Remember, again, kicking him out of the banking thing, oil, everything they could shut down. They've confiscated bank accounts and money and things like that. And all of that's coming back home to roost now. But in a much more solid situation as far as strength, because the petrodollar was waning in its strength because it was already starting to crumble. But with not only the BRICS getting all the members put together now, and it started today again for Saudi Arabia, or yesterday, they have a solid foundation to work from. Now it's no longer the domination of the West and NATO, but it is now the oil-producing countries, the original, I guess, the main powerhouses of OPEC. But what we need to pay attention to is a couple of things. Let's take a look at CNBC for a moment. I'll show you what I'm talking about. And just quickly, this is the header. Everything's not very active except the NASDAQ, and it's down 271 points. But what I came here for was to look at the commodities. Now, what I'm seeing, I may be wrong. I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. But at the top, this is the energy futures. Oil has been dropping. I think this morning it opened around $71 and something like that. You see it's down $1.29 a barrel at 70.33. I like that. I like it staying that low. But guys, I think it's going to change, but it's going to have headwinds because why? It's an election year. You're starting to see more and more things get like the interest rates getting held back a little bit, trying to get more votes in and a little cheaper oil. But this headwind thing is going to be the fact that oil is going to become more and more scarce. Will they open up more oil-producing fields? Do they have time to do it? I don't know the current situation with a strategic petroleum reserve. I know it had been near emptied a couple of times in the last few years. Don't know how that will fit into play. But so the U.S. is going to try to keep the price of oil down until the election. That's a year away almost. And I don't think they're going to be able to do it. So we're going to see conflict with the economics here, with the banking situation, with BRICS. And I think it's just going to push this central currency down our throat. You won't need banks at that point. You won't need tellers. You won't need ATMs. You just got a card you use if you're allowed to when you need it. It will all be controlled and watched. Taxes will be automatically, even with increases in taxes that really don't get voted on. You may have social media problems that they can just stop transactions on most things or all things. But what will happen, which would be interesting to see, is how the banks handle when the digital currency comes into play. Will they give you full credit for whatever cash you have in there, savings or whatever? And then if they do give you full credit, they control it. You won't need, again, withdrawal for cash. The banks have laid off record numbers of thousands of people this year. They're getting ready for something like that. Again, it can be just a group of people with a lot of AI involved, running a few computers at the Fed, and that's all they'll need. They'll control everything. But we're watching it, guys. We're hoping for a better new year, but we're just going to have to wait and see. It does not hurt to have your eyes open. It's a heads up. Be safe.